All right, welcome to day 138, 139. I'm losing count. So today we're looking at Johnson County in Kansas, which is just outside of Kansas City. And I decided to look in this area because I was talking to a contractor today. His name is Tyler Aiken, one of the contractors, and he recommended because he lives in Overland Park himself. Like, hey, if you really want above average neighborhoods, might it not cash flow? It might not cash flow, but if you want to check out other neighborhoods and just check out the rents, well, check out Johnson County and specifically in Overland Park where he lives. So I decided to check out Johnson County today in Kansas, and I can't wait to share the podcast with all of you on Monday when we release that podcast that we just recorded today. This is going to be good. So I went ahead and looked up Johnson County Housing Authority and looked at the payment standards. So in Johnson County, you can see what cities they capture. And here it lists the payment standards. And if you remember what we've talked about in the past, sometimes the payment standards are set at above the fair market rents, which is kind of listed out here. Maybe because this is an area where the home price is a lot higher than normal. Maybe the standard of living is higher than the surrounding metropolitan. So you can see why the payment standards are higher than the FMR. Now, this covers all these cities, and I'll just point out a few of them that he mentioned to me: Leawood, Overland Park, Prairie Village. So these are all areas that these payment standards would apply to. And to be super clear, these payment standards are rent plus utility allowances, right? Very different than what we saw the other day in North Carolina, where in Raleigh County, their contract rents is what they call them, was actually the FMR subtracting the utility allowance from it. Here, the payment standards actually includes the rent and utility allowance. So if you want to charge the full 2317 for a four-bedroom property, you need to deduct the utility amounts if you are not covering utilities. And if you want, you can just kind of quickly look at here what utility allowances look like. Okay. So within Johnson County, I saw that the three-bedroom, four-bedroom rents are right around $2,000. And if I were to think about the 1% rule, I quickly filtered for properties that were closer to 200 grand. And I just put in 250 grand as the maximum price. I found this property, 9924 West 52nd Street in Merriam, Kansas. And just so you guys know where it is, it's a little bit southwest of Kansas City. Okay, great. Let's do a quick street view. Oh, it's not a street view. Maybe because it's an HOA community. Okay, interesting. All right, so there's an HOA. So maybe that's why it's an gated community. So they're not able to provide any street views. Well, let's go ahead and figure out what would make this a deal. So far, what we have, usually we go to HUD FMR, we get it, right? But if you ever look up the housing authority and you see that they have specific payment standards by the city or the county payment standards, this is probably going to be a much more accurate rent ceiling for your underwriting. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to go get the market rents. So I plugged in the address here, plugged in bedroom count, and I see that the market rents for a three-bedroom is 1816. So I'm going to note these numbers down really quick at 1816. 1816, 1782 for the zip, 1808 for the city, and then 1863 for the county. Okay. This is for three bedrooms. Now, I also want to get the estimates or market rents for a four bedroom. Why? Because, well, if I'm trying to get an additional rent with creatively adding bedroom counts, well, I need to see where that lift is worth it. So I'm gonna go from 1816 to let's see what is 1967. 1967. 1967, 1936 for the zip, 2249 for the city, and 2365. 2365. Now, let's kind of write down these payments in Johnson County 2024 payment standards. And let's write these things down. So a one bed, all utilities paid. So let's just be super clear about this. Utilities 1317, 1509 for a two, 1974 for a three, 2317 for a four. And I'm wondering, I don't have the amount. I probably have to call and ask what the payment standard is for a five bedroom. But if this follows the same trend, it goes to 2317 plus 343, maybe it's 2660. Purely guessing. I don't know if that's a fact. But let me see if I can check if the rents for a five bedroom, if that's even applicable. 27. Okay, so definitely a much, much bigger lift for a five bedroom because that seems to be really rare here. So, and I'm pretty confident I can get 2660 if I do add two extra bedrooms. So, something for us to keep in mind. But today, for the purpose of this underwriting, I'm going to underwrite using 1816 as my rent because that's below the payment standards and I'm not going to be covering utilities. Chances are I need to get the exact amount and subtract from it, but I think 1816 is pretty fair right now. And why? That's because of the rent reasonableness test. And you will see that Johnson County actually lists out how they compare for rent reasonableness. They even clearly say, like, hey, the size of the home matters, bedrooms and square footage, location, quality, amenities, so number of bathrooms, where not there's a dishwasher, where not there's air conditioning, type of housing services, the age of the home, the unit type, so single family, townhome, etc., maintenance and utilities. Interesting. All right. Well, at least they actually tell you exactly how to determine rent reasonableness. And this is probably one of the most, I want to say, comprehensive lists that I've seen from some housing authorities. So they have great documentation here. All right. Next thing we want to do is we want to gauge the condition of the home. This home is okay. Maybe just got to refinish. The kitchen looks fine. Bathroom looks fine. Yeah, the carpet looks okay, actually. So there's not much rehab to do on this property. So I might just assume that there's some money for a paint job, but that's pretty much it. I'm not going to get any more fancy than that. So if I go to my spreadsheet, it's 1344 square feet. So I'm only going to include three toilets that I'm going to replace to high pressure flush toilets. So I don't have to worry about snaking or toilets getting clogged. 1344, 1344 at $3 a square foot. I got some landscaping expenses to keep clean. Actually, there wasn't much landscaping here on this property. I'm gonna leave that zero. I'm gonna assume there might be some $1,500 of roof repairs that I can't see from the photos. This results in a total rehab of $8,000 for this property. This property is listed at 215, so we're gonna plug that in right here, $215,000. We're gonna add in $75 for property taxes. It's kind of low, actually, not that bad. My HOA is 115, so I'm gonna write that in here. HOA. It's kind of extra line I have for these miscellaneous expenses. And I got $140 for my insurance. 140. Okay. At 140 times 1.2, that equals to 168. All right. Now, I'm going to assume that my loan terms for this property is a 25% down, and I'm going to assume this is a 8% interest rate right now for this property. Now, assuming my property manager is 10%, my vacancy is 3% because I'm in a nicer neighborhood and good schools and stuff like that, a lower crime, which I can check lower crime stats by simply going to topapp.com, go to neighborhood section, and you can see that the crime score. Hold on a second. Oh, I don't like this crime score actually. Am I picking the right spot? 138. That's actually kind of high. I actually don't like this. But let's keep going. Oh, maybe I was looking at a different area earlier. What schools here? Let's see. Yeah, okay. I want at least 1, 4, and 5, 10. So it's not bad. It's right in the average section. So let's keep on going. I don't like this crime score. So we have to see, but you're in a gated community too. So I'm assuming this is skewed because it's lumping in all the zip code data. But this area is in a gated community. I think it has a different, very, very different vibe. Unfortunately, I can't see the street view. Let's see if there's a satellite view. Yeah, this looks like a gated community. Or maybe, you never know. Well, let's keep on going. Let's check the numbers. So at 25% down, 8% interest rate, let's assume the start date is 2024, 30. This is going to result, assuming a rent of 1816, 1816. This is going to cash flow negative 142. That's a negative 2.5% cash on cash return, assuming the purchase was $215,000. Oops. With an $8,000 rehab. So I have to figure out, hey, what's going to result in a 10% return on me for this property? If I bought this property 125 grand, oh, boom, 9.9%. 9.9. So the max I would be willing to pay, assuming my down payment and my interest rate remained the same, and my rehab was still $8,000, and my rent was still 1816, I would cash flow $352 a month, which is a 9.9% cash on cash return, if I offered the property $125,000. Now, might that happen? Might not that happen? No, maybe, but that's the scenario that you're working with. And so for every property, we have to understand that there is a set of terms that will make this a deal. Now, what if I turn this property into a 4 bedroom and now I'm able to get 1967 for rent, 1967. But let's say it costs me an additional, if I'm using existing square footage, I'm going to say, say it costs extra 10 grand to convert the additional bedroom. Well, now I would be willing to pay $130,000 instead of 125. That's because my rehab is now $18,000 because it's more expensive to turn to a 5 bedroom. But my mortgage interest is 8%, and now my higher rent in 1967 allows me to pay a little bit more for the property. But don't forget, I'm investing a little bit more money because I'm increasing my rehab to turn this into a 4 bedroom property and rent it out as a 4 bedroom property, 3, 3, 4. So hopefully this gives you a little semblance on what it means to turn this property into a set of property that makes with terms that would make this a deal. Now, if I were to say, well, what if I could buy this on a creative finance deal? Let's see if we can turn this into, let's see. Let's see if I can find why there's an underlying loan on this deal. Get the address. And usually the website I use is PropStream to see if there's underlying loan. I'm plugging the address. Let's say Shawnee. Let's see if there's details. Details. And usually if there is underlying loan, there should be a section here where it says mortgage and transaction history. Oh, and you can see that there is an underlying loan for 143,250. So when I come in here and plug it in 143,250 at 6.1% interest rate, this was started at 3/6/2023, 3/6/2023. Oh, so this person bought it a year ago for 143 and now wants to sell for 215. Interesting. All right. So if the seller is willing to seller finance their piece, what would their equity be? So let's go back to $215,000 for the asking price. So you can see that boom, the asking price is right here, 215. We're going to give the seller a 25% down payment, and the seller is going to have $18,000 equity. But our cost of capital is a little bit lower because the primary mortgage is 6.1%. So now, down payment, mortgage interest, and now the seller finance piece is seller finance mortgage. I'll write this stuff down. Let's assume it's still a 4 bedroom, 1967. Let's assume our rehab is still $18,000, but our purchase is going to go back to $215,000. My down payment is still 25%. My primary mortgage sub 2 interest rate is 6.1, and sub 2 right here. so you guys can see the terms and how they work out. But now my mortgage interest rate is 0%. That will result in a 3.7% cash and cash return. And my cash flow per month is going to be 238.50. Now, how can I turn this into a deal that allows my cash and cash return to go higher? Well, what if I turn my down payment to 5%? Still doesn't work. Why? Because this primary loan is still too much and the person still wants too much money for this property. So in order for this to happen, I had to get 5% down at the lower the asking price to, let's say, 180, whoops, 170. Yeah, 165. So the only way to make this property work is if I buy this property for $165,000, assuming it's still a four-bedroom property, I'm getting 1967 for my rents. Just gonna highlight this so you guys can see the difference in their properties. Oops. My down payment is now 5%. My sub two loan is still 6.1%. My seller finance fee is still zero. But then the equity piece that I'm looking at is still $18,000. And the equity portion is now $13,500. So the seller still financed me at $13,500 for a 0% interest rate. And I have to give a 5% down in order for this to be a 9.8% cash and cash return. Is that likely? Probably not. But at least now you know what set of terms makes this a deal. And that's really important. So awesome. That's all I wanted to share for today. We'll be back here again, analyzing a deal again tomorrow. And I really can't wait. I'm so glad I got to bring on a contractor from this area who has a ton of investment experience. I mean, rehab experience, because he's done over 400 renovations. Please do your own due diligence. Just because someone has had a lot of experience does not necessarily mean that they are the best contractor either. That's going to depend on you and how you manage your project, etc. So I've done the work. I've gone out, reached out to my network, and found some folks to bring back to the network. So at least you know where to start. It's going to be up to you to decide who you want to do and handle the rehab, and ultimately decide when you want to use them. So thank you so much for joining today. Thank you so much for being part of the affordable housing and investment community. I'm so glad to be doing this alongside with all of you. And I really hope that you guys can take the same deal I analyzed today and analyze it tomorrow, just like you're copying homework. Put it on your own YouTube channel, analyzing the same deal using the same spreadsheet, and boom, you're in a year. If you're staying consistent with it, you'll have 365 videos, and you would have spent at least 100 hours analyzing deals. And at that point in time, well, you're probably going to be better at analyzing deals than 95% of America. And that is hopefully what's going to give you the confidence to pull the trigger on your deal. And ultimately, if a partner ever asks you why you think this is a deal, well, you can point them to your own YouTube channel and say, well, I know this is a deal because I looked at the past 365 deals, and they were all not deals. Have an amazing night, everybody. It's